Hello everyone, this is Chromatic Photophore. Welcome to my tutorial series. Today we're going to be talking about navigating the channel rack and the browser of FL Studio. This tutorial is aimed at newcomers to the program, so if you have a little bit of experience using it already, you may find that you already know all of this. Otherwise, sit tight, we're going to go over the basic navigation of the program. When you first open it, it'll look something like all of this, with all this very confusing and discombobulating stuff. So we're going to just skip all of that, go right up over to where it says File, click on it, and we're going to make a new project that is empty, for the sake of simplicity. We're not going to save the changes to new stuff, we're just going to hit No, and it'll go ahead and load up the next thing. So, when everything is empty, it'll look a little bit more like this. So, these two windows will go over another time. I'm going to exit out of those. The ones we're focusing on are this and this over here. So this right here is the channel rack. This is where your drum samples, your recordings, your synth instruments, where all of that goes, and where you map out notes and rhythms. Over here is where you find all the necessary files to put in the channel rack. So today, we're going to be navigating mostly to where the drum samples are. If you need samples, thankfully FL Studio comes with a large number of them for free, right out of the box. So to find those, we're going to navigate to where it says Packs in the browser. So I'll click on that. We get a lot of different options. Right now, what we're looking for is just where it says Drums. So I'm going to click on that. We have a variety of them already, just cymbals, hats, kicks, snares. If you don't know what these are, don't worry, we're going to go over these. We're going to start with a kick. So I'll open that. You'll see a bunch of different little named things here and lots of different numbers and the like. These are just different kick samples. These are basically the bass drum of a song. So if I click on any of them, it plays that sample. Now, if you click through every one of them, one by one, that can be very laborious and time-consuming. A simpler way is using the up and down arrow keys on your keyboard until you find a sample you like. So let's go down a little bit. Right now, this FPC7 kick sounds good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag on it to see how it's kind of following my little mouse now. I'm going to put it up here in the channel rack. Now, if I place it directly over this sampler here, you'll see that it turns green. That means I'm going to replace that thing there. If I put it above or below, then it'll create an extra sampler next to these things. So right now I'm going to go ahead and place it below the existing sampler. And there I have my FPC7 kick. Now here, I'm also going to operate under the assumption that you don't have a MIDI controller, like a little piano that you plug into your computer to play notes. I'm going to assume that all you have is your typing keyboard. If so, make sure that this button here is lit up. This is what makes it so that you can play notes using your typing keyboard. So, if I want to hear this FPC7 sample now, all I have to do is start pushing buttons on my keyboard, like a lot of the different letters. You'll find that the center one is going to be your comma key, if you're using a standard QWERTY keyboard. So we have a kick. Now you're probably wondering what all these little dots are on the side of the samplers. So this is where you map out different rhythms. It helps having a little bit of music theory under your belt, even just the basics, to be able to understand it. So if you need assistance with music theory, there's plenty of videos you can search for about that. I unfortunately have none at the moment. If you want to map out just a basic 4-on-the-floor beat, like in standard EDM music, you just left-click on any one of these dots, and you start adding them. Notice I've got 1, 3 blank, 1, 3 blank, 1, 3 blank. That constitutes a quarter note in FL Studio. So if you want a 4 on the floor, the first of each of these different colored sets of 4 needs to be highlighted. Now if I hit the play button, I actually have a little EDM beat. If it feels too fast, which to me it personally does, then right here where you see this number, this is your beats per minute, the tempo of the song. If you want to raise or lower this, you click and drag up or down. Up to increase, of course, down to decrease. I'm going to bring it to right about 120. Now if I hit the play button, you'll find that the beat is noticeably slower. Let's say I want to add more samples. Let's say I want something to make a nice little extra rhythmic sound. I'm going to go to my snares down here. So this, for people who don't know what these are, this is the very clacky type of sound that you hear that really adds a lot of punch on the second and fourth beats of a rhythm. So lots and lots of different things. So we just pick one that sounds good to our ears, that you feel matches this other one over here. So I'll hit play, so that way I can hear my kick while I'm selecting a sample. Okay, for now, the FPC Snare 8 works for me. So I'll click and drag again. Make sure you don't let go right up there, or you'll erase your kick and have to find it again. You'll let go just under, and voila, now I've got a snare. Now I need to map this out as well if I want to continue along the kind of EDM beat. Instead of highlighting all four, which would produce this kind of sound, maybe I only want it to play on certain beats. So the first one and the third one I'm going to erase. And instead I'm just going to hit play now, only having 2 and 4 highlighted. Voila, we have a standard EDM beat happening already. Let's flesh it out a little more. I'm going to close the snares. Now I'm going to go to the hats. So this is where all of your very clicky sounds with a very like kind of tss sort of sound reside. So if you see one that says CH, that is a closed hat, like so, very clicky sound. OH means open hat, more of a sustained sound. So let's play the beat again, and we're going to go through until we find something that kind of makes sense. Okay, that one makes a little bit of sense. Just a little. I might change that out. You don't have to hyper-focus on getting all the samples perfect. You can come back and adjust them as needed. So I'm going to add this one. So the hi-hats, you can get a little bit more creative with the rhythms. So if I do the same thing as I did with the kick and the snare initially, and just do a 4 on the floor beat, not too bad, it's functional. If I want to give it a little more character, maybe I want it to be faster, I can play it every 2 notes. So all of a sudden, these are what we call eighth notes right here, where it's basically half a quarter note. So if I play it now, slightly more of a Billie Jean kind of feel, if you will. So if I want to add an open hat, we just kind of follow the same process. Now, on the note of changing it later, I actually find I like that hat a little more, so this time I'm going to replace the previous hat. Now, when you replace a sound like this, you don't lose any of the notes you mapped. Now, you may have noticed I just tweaked this knob right here. The knob on the right, next to each of these samples, is your volume knob. So if I adjust it, turning to the right makes it loud, turning to the left mutes it. And I can slowly bring this back in now. That way I can balance the volume of all the instruments. The knob on the left is the pan, which makes it so that when you're using stereo speakers, you're either panning all the way to the left or all the way to the right. You can drag it back to the center. You'll see that it kind of turns white when you're centered, so you know you're right back in the middle. So if I play it, and it's best if you have headphones or good speakers, that you won't notice a difference on a smartphone. But if I hit play and pan it left and right, you'll notice that the sound shifts from one speaker to the next. So this can be a useful effect. Sometimes it can give you a bit more of a real drum kit sound where like your toms are panned very slightly to the right, your hi-hats are a little more to the left. Gives it a bit of a sense of space, if you will. Now, back to the matter at hand, finding an open hi-hat. So, I actually like this one a lot, though it's a little longer than I would like. For now, I'm going to just drag it for observation purposes. So there's a few different things that we can do with this thing. If I want to make it a very punchy beat, I'd just follow the same pattern as the kick. If I want to make it more EDM style, by the way, if you want to erase a note, you right-click on it instead of left-clicking. So I'm going to right-click on all of these. If I want to make it more of an EDM style, I would add them in these positions. So it looks a little odd, sort of like a reverse of the... It's almost like I'm just moving these quarter notes over just 2 steps, 2 notes. That's exactly what we're doing. This is creating what we call an offbeat. So if I hit play now, voila, classic EDM rhythm. Now you can really map these out any way you want. That's just an example of one basic rhythm that you might want to perform using just these things here. That is the tutorial for navigating the browser and navigating your channel rack.